4:44. I hope that Larry Bjork and Jim Zons will join us, because at this point, we have Dave Bartlett and from the County Board Supervisors. And I know Jim Zons is going to join us. I haven't heard from Larry. So I assume he's going to join us. Paul, when I read your letter this morning about the COVID cases in Dunn County, that really was kind of, I don't know the word, disappointing. My goodness, each month I look for better news, but you didn't have it.
Yeah, and you wish you could give. Everybody wants this to be over.
Yeah.
But as long as our vaccination rate stays where it is, I don't know when it ends.
I know. I had the vaccination and I got the COVID anyway. 5 months later, now I'm waiting in a week. I'm going to go up and get the booster. At my age, I said I could get one. So I'm going to. Okay, Jim Zons is on, and we're waiting for Larry Bjork yet. I'm going to call a meeting to order. It is now time. It's at 4:46. So I will call a CR&T meeting to order. And looking at the roll call here, we have Supervisor Vogel, Supervisor Quinn, and Supervisor Zons, and County Board Chair David Bartlett. And we have other guests on here. I'll be calling on you later. So we will then ask for approval of the last meeting, which was October 11th. Have you had a chance to review and read them, or any questions on them? Otherwise, I'll entertain a motion to approve the October 11th Community Resources and Tourism minutes.
Move to approve.
Quinn approved.
I'll second.
Supervisor Vogel second. Moved and seconded to approve the October 11th meeting. Any more discussion or questions? If not all, please signify by saying aye.
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 No? Any negative? Meetings are approved. Thank you. Thank you. And again, I want to say, reach out to Michelle for saying thank you for doing such a good job of taking our minutes. At this point, I have had quite a bit of discussion with different people on broadband, and Jim Kuslich has asked if he could address this committee. Jim Kuslich is with the 24/7 telecom here in Downsville and Menominee, and has worked very hard with all of the broadband in the area. Jim gave a report to our executive board meeting last Wednesday, a week ago. So Supervisor Quinn, you will probably have heard much of this, and as well as County Board Chair Bartlett. But Jim Kuslich and I have talked a lot about this, and I just wanted the rest of you to kind of hear what they're doing. And remember, this is not just for the townships around Menominee, but we're talking about what's all of Dunn County. Jim Kuslich, if you're on, I'll call on you at this point.
Okay, thank you very much. Appreciate you having us on the call or join the meeting. We'd like to just comment on the agenda item that you got coming up for the use of ARPA funds for rural broadband projects. And I think most of you are aware, I'm sure, that Dunn County has been allocated about $8.8 million in ARPA funds, and has received approximately half of that, about 4.4 million of the ARPA funds should have been received by now. The remaining 4.4 million is scheduled to be showing up in the spring of 2022. So what we're asking Dunn County to consider is to set aside enough ARPA funds for broadband projects so that the county could match any of the towns that are contributing their ARPA funds to broadband projects, preferably fiber to the home projects, but any broadband projects where they would provide at least 100 meg down, 25 meg up. So if you take all of the ARPA funds that the towns currently have available to them, it would equate to about $2,543,000. So that's roughly 29% of the $8.8 million that the county has access to. So that $2,543,000 would be the maximum amount that the county would have to match for any of these projects that we're recommending. So we wouldn't expect that it would even come to the 2.5 million, because there's some of the towns that are not going to match 100%. There's other towns that already have 100% broadband access in their town, so that they wouldn't need to use some of the ARPA funds. So we do expect that to be less than the 2,543,000. One thing for 24/7 telecom, we've worked with 9 different towns in Dunn County, and we have partnerships in place with those towns, and they plan to use their ARPA funds for these broadband projects. With those 9 partnership agreements, we did submit applications to the PSC in the last round of grants, and we did receive 8 awards or grants for those projects. So 8 of the 9 projects were awarded a grant. If you take the ARPA funds that were allocated or that the towns plan to contribute in those projects, it totals $1,216,000. So that's the commitment right now from the towns to get broadband built out in those areas. The majority of these towns are around the city limits of Menominee. So we're talking about what we call the donut area around Menominee. That's the area that 24/7 has been focused on for the last 5 or 6 years. So we also have a few other future projects that we would like to work with additional towns. Some of those towns are the same in the last round, but it's to fill in some of the gaps that are left from that last batch of projects that we did. So it would be an additional $230,000 above and beyond the 1.2 million. So at this point, 24/7 telecom would potentially be requesting $1,447,178 if the county would set aside funds for that. The remaining ARPA funds that the county would have set aside would be able to be used for additional towns within the county. So the majority of those then would be north of Menominee, up in the northern part of Dunn County. So there's other providers up in that area that are very interested in working with Dunn County on some projects up in those areas. So just to give you a history of what 24/7 telecom has done up to this point, we've actually been submitting broadband grant applications since 2016. Since then, we've been awarded 12 broadband grants for projects, and 9 of those 12 have been in Dunn County. And those 9 projects total about just shy of $5 million of broadband projects that we've done up to this point. So about half of that has been grant funds that have been awarded to 24/7. We've invested that then into broadband, and we've invested $2.3 million of our own dollars into those projects to build out broadband. And that's served about 1,000 customers so far to date. Those 8 projects that were just awarded grants is considerably a larger amount. It's a total of $18,292,000 that we will be investing over the next couple of years in broadband. So we're taking this very serious, and we're really hoping that we can partner with Dunn County on this. of that 18 million, the towns are going to contribute $1,466,000. So the very, very large contribution from the towns at this point. So I guess those are the comments I'd like you to consider when you're discussing the use of ARPA funds for broadband projects in Dunn County. I'm available for any questions. If anybody wants to contact me, if you have any questions now, I'd be happy to answer those. Otherwise, those are my comments, Jim. Thank you.
Thank you, Jim, for that presentation. I think this is a good time to remind everybody too that we've always had good reporting in the Tribune Press. Leanne Ralph, when we talk about broadband, and I want to compliment her for always in the paper sharing what this committee is trying to do regarding expanding broadband in Dunn County. So again, you know, we hear this here, but we want all of the public to know. So a shout out to Leanne Ralph for the good reporting. And that's also true what she does for the tourism, which I'll comment on later. Thank you, Jim. If people do have questions, you don't have to stay online. We are going to be probably addressing or at least discussing this later in our agenda, Jim. So I will just say to you, if you can stay on or be available, otherwise that we will talk about it. And if there are questions, I will get back to you later on. So thank you very much, Jim. Moving on, we have our staff reports, extension educators, and I understand I talked ahead of time a little bit about who from extension is going to be talking to us. And I think we got two people this time, Louisa, our 4-H educator, and Stephanie, who we missed last month because she broke her wrist. So which one of you are going first?
I can go super first because I'm jumping in on Louisa's time. Thank you, Louisa. And thank you everyone for being here. And thank you for letting me miss out on the next one. So I did break my wrist, but the last time I was actually very ill. Like I got a COVID test and everything. I couldn't barely talk. It was terrible. But I'm much better now. We're healthy. We're happy. And I'm excited to share some things with you. So as you know, I help lead and facilitate the Dunn County Community Health Needs Assessment. We did that one in 2018 and time is flying and we got to do another one. So we are in the process of officially launching that needs assessment. We decided we're going to do an affirmation survey. So essentially, we're just going to re-ask the community. Here are the top 5 community identified priority health areas. Does that still ring true? And if not, what are the other priority areas? We're also adding a question to ask our community members if they would feel comfortable if Dunn County, Eau Claire County, and Chippewa County all collaborated their efforts. So Eau Claire and Chippewa County are already having a collaboration for their CHNA. And we're hoping that we can get Dunn County on board in that collaboration and that the community would still feel that Dunn County residents would be accurately represented if we did that collaboration. So we have a question on the survey for that as well. And we are slowly trying to build relationships and trust with leaders of the CHNA in those 2 counties so we can join because we would be able to reduce redundancies, save money and time. So that's the CHNA. I just included a link in the chat. I'm going to be sending this link out multiple times within the next 4 months. So you'll probably hear me 4 weeks. So you'll probably hear me talking about it often. I'll be all over social media. I'm going to be emailing, calling people, stakeholders. We're going to get paper copies in places to reach every part and every demographic in the county. So being really intentional about where we're putting paper copies, who we're asking, just to make sure that we have an accurate representation of the needs in our county. So that's going on. That's going very well still. Other things that I'm doing, I of course do my parenting education, Parents Forever, still going very well, still having great feedback for that. I am continuing to doing my healthy coping mechanisms classes. So doing practicing the pause weekly, that has been a very successful program. We're actually thinking about how can we take this practicing pause to the next level because it's been very successful. And we're thinking about creating either a journal that goes along with the practicing the pause class, or maybe a Padlet community or something else. But we want to take that idea to the next level because it's been very helpful for our community members. And then as well as teaching We Cope, that's another healthy coping mechanisms class. I just restarted one in the jails. So working with Heather Pica, she's the education coordinator, and we are doing a series of We Cope right now, as well as starting up Making Reading Memories. So as a reminder or a refresher, Making Reading Memories is a program developed by the Literacy Link, which is a big program in Wisconsin that got lots of money and grants to foster relationships between incarcerated parents and their children on the outside through reading. And so one of the programs is called Making Reading Memories. That's when we give them a number of books to pick based off their own children's ages and stages of development. Often these books are about social emotional learning. We make sure that these books have representation from all different cultures and identities. We make sure that the books also include female characters, right? So this program is very intentional, and we are picking that back up. We're trying to do a virtual format, and so far it is working. And yeah, so there's a number of good things going on. I'm still very excited about my work. And I hope that you guys are excited to watch and listen and learn. And please let me know if you have any questions.
Oh, Stephanie, I love your enthusiasm and how you go about this. And we remember we can read all this in our monthly report too from all of our educators. So I'm sure there'll be more on that if we have any questions from you. And take care of that wrist, Stephanie. Good to have you back. Thank you. Louisa, our Dunn County 4-H educator. Welcome, Larry Bjork.
Hi, everybody. I'm Louisa Gerasimo, coming to you from a somewhat empty farmhouse where I have better internet tonight. I have a few things to report on, and I don't know that there's a particularly good order to go on, but I'm just going to start with, we are wrapping up charter season, which Michelle and I spent a lot of energy on in the fall. I don't know if you guys are aware, but our 19 or 20 or so chartered clubs are chartered through the United States Department of Agriculture. So it's a federally organized program, and we do have to ask our clubs each year a series of questions, and they do need to give us, if they have money, they have to do an annual financial report. It's quite a lot of paperwork for our leaders of our clubs and our volunteers, and even some of the teens get in on it. This year, they did a fantastic job. We had every single club that had money did an annual report and turned everything in almost on time, which is pretty good considering how busy people are. We had one club that did not turn in anything because of COVID. They have 3 generations of their family very ill with COVID and have been sick off and on since September. So we're working on giving them a pass, but this year worked really well, partly because Michelle got us a new system, basically a way to track where we were at for all the very miscellaneous little pieces of information that have to all be organized. So I know you're probably all curious to hear how we're doing on enrollment. And right now we have 185 youth. Last year, by the end of May, we had 293. So typically very late. They come right before May 1st, which is the deadline for the fair. Somebody else in their family did it, and they find out that then we get a whole bunch of enrollments at the last minute. So we're ahead of schedule for that. We're more than 50% re-enrolled, ahead of pace for previous years, have been trained and background checked, and 25 more are pending a background check. We have to do this every 4 years for people. This is part of what keeps our program so safe for our youth. And this year we have a whole bunch of people that would have been trained under Jason Hausler or Stephanie that are coming back at that 4-year mark, 69 that we had last year. So we're doing well with that as well, I think. I'm going to stop and see if there's any questions, because then I have a few other fun things to talk about besides enrollment or how we're doing on that.
Anybody?
Okay, I will be available at the end for questions as well.
Yeah, continue.
Okay. So fun things that we've been doing as COVID hit in 2021 and in 2020, obviously we had to move a lot of things to a virtual basis. Sometimes good things come out of bad things. And the good thing that came out of that is that all across the state, new partnerships were formed in of some of our colleagues. I can't manage to do all things, right? I can do the things I'm good at, and I share what I'm good at. We have had Chippewa, Eau Claire, and Dunn counties cooperating to create and put on programs. And so that's allowed us to do some things we haven't done before. So we're on our 2nd year of teaching a mini camp called Discover 4-H, and that's for our younger families. We have gotten new families out of this. So we ask people who aren't in 4-H to sign up for a 6-week session, and then we literally bombard them with everything fun about 4-H. So they learn the pledge, they get all their materials in a bag, they work with their family to make a different project every week. We have different people teaching, and those have been rated very highly by the families. And as I said, we're picking up new families that way. We are bringing back the international, last year we called it Cookie Camp. This year it's International Holiday Baking. It starts at the end of November and goes up until the holidays there. And we are going to do a different country and a different holiday treat. People cook in their own kitchens, and it is so fun to see moms and dads and sisters and brothers cooking together. So we're going to keep that rolling. I'm going to teach the Greek cookie, which I'm still trying to learn how to pronounce. I had to call my Greek uncle and make him tell me what it was on the phone. Melomakarona. Wow, a honey cookie. And Rachel in Eau Claire and I are working on winter camp. We're not sure if we're going to put that on or not. We're hoping we'll put a survey out to our families this week, hoping to hear back that people do want a winter camp. And all 3 of us in the Area 6 are working on the Tri-County Performing Arts Festival. We've got a date for that, and we started advertising for that in November. And then also a winter event that we will begin working on is the Battle of the Clubs in Dunn County. That is an immensely popular time when people come together and do silly things. And we pit club against club. Big kids and little kids participate. So that's what's going on in the 4-H world. I will be gone next week to a 4-H national conference in Memphis with many of my colleagues across the country, where we will be learning from each other. And that is my very short report.
Well, Louisa, have a great trip. You're going to Memphis, huh? Wow. We wait to hear all
Going to
about
Memphis, Tennessee.
Oh, great. Thank you. Thank you very much. Maybe we'll hear from Catherine, and then if any of the committee members or anybody has questions, we could direct and who you want to ask the question. So at this point, it's always good to hear from our area extension director. Catherine, I'm reading all about you and the Eau Claire leader all the time. You're a busy woman.
It's true. It's
Catherine,
true.
you're on.
Yeah, well, thanks for your understanding at the beginning of the meeting. I was able to pass my son to dad, and we'll be tag teaming till Thursday. So good to be with you all. Want to thank both Stephanie and Louisa and Michelle and our whole team just for the incredible work that they do. And as you can see, they really excel at positivity, even in challenging times. And so that is really a gift that they all bring in addition to the professionalism. So thank you to the 3 of you and to our whole team. So just a couple of things I'll highlight that I shared in our monthly highlights report. We are continuing to do orientation with our newer colleagues, and typically when we hire somebody new, there's lots and lots of in-person meetings, and for obvious reasons that just hasn't happened. And so we have transitioned to a little bit more intentional meetings, like a small cohort for 2 of the newer educators in Eau Claire County and then Addison too. And it's really exciting because not only do we go over just local things to learn in addition to the state orientation they get, it's just really fun because it reminds you of, all of the important collaborations that are happening and programmatic opportunities. And so I get a lot out of it as well. But the value is to continue to build those networks, share with each other the work that they're doing, and to be a resource, and just to try to really continue to build out, how we improve and how we transform lives through the community, county collaboration, and the university education partnership. The second piece I want to share out is Pamela Warren Armstrong, who is based out of Eau Claire County. She is a food-wise educator. Her position is, as all of our food-wise educators are, federally funded and through extension, and then housed at the local counties. So as you may remember, Karen, who was here some years ago when she retired, Pamela and Joy from Eau Claire County helped to take over some of the teaching responsibilities and done. Pamela is retiring, and so we are able to refill that position. And Sandy serves as a direct supervisor for our food-wise educators. So right now, Pamela's position, this is kind of nerdy, but it's important information to share out. Her position is a 0.80 FTE, so 80% position. And it's pretty hard to get increases in positions. Well, Sandy and I were able to effectively advocate for getting a 1.0 FTE. And the reason why is that we were able to share that, the state was sharing that if there was opportunities for policy, systems, and environment work related to food-wise, so that's healthy nutrition education, that they would be able to increase that. So we were able to actually increase from a 0.8 to a 1.0 FTE. And that person will be teaching across Dunn, Eau Claire, and potentially Chippewa County as needs arise, but we'll certainly be teaching across Dunn as well. And just really excited to bring a new person on. And also we will definitely miss Pamela. But again, food-wise is not really paid for out of any levy dollars. The county partnership and contribution is the county will provide office space if somebody is located in the office, and some basic office supplies. But for the majority of supplies, professional development, all of the salary, all the benefits, pretty much everything else is paid for through the federal grant that's housed at the state. And then again, the county provides office space, which is a huge piece. It's hard to do work if you don't have a place to work from. They will provide technology. So like Sandy is provided with a laptop from Dunn County because she's based there. And so just want to keep you in the loop for this new educator who will definitely be doing work in Dunn County, and you will definitely have a chance to meet whomever this new person will be. We expect that we'll be able to hire this individual beginning of January, which coincides with Pamela's retirement timeline. And then a big piece of news for us in Extension and UW-Madison is our chancellor is going to be taking a president job at Northwestern University. Yeah. And when we were absorbed into UW-Madison, Chancellor Blank was really, I think, an incredible champion for us in Extension. Her parents were Extension agents, as they're called, a little bit more back in the day. And she really believed in values Extension, and I feel like tried to be really supportive of kind of smaller cooperative Extension being absorbed into a ginormous UW-Madison. So we'll definitely miss having her as our champion, and just wanted you to be aware of that. I'm certain that once we have a new chancellor on board, I will share out that information as well. So nothing really in particular for Dunn County, but it's a little bit of important institutional family news that is going to impact us as our organization. So that's all I have for this afternoon, early evening. I know Louisa mentioned that we'd stick around for any questions, and certainly would like to offer myself for any questions that you may have.
Yes, Catherine, thank you. And so from you, or Stephanie, or Louisa, anybody have a questions of any one of these three people? Raise your hand if you do. Think Supervisor Quinn, did you know? Okay.
No.
Okay. Well, you keep those monthly newsletters coming. That's very informative to all of us. And when you see Kathleen Bates over there in Eau Claire County, congratulate her again from all of us for her great award at the Wisconsin Counties Association in La Crosse. I don't know if you know, but she has been a great supporter of UW-Madison Extension all these years. And so Catherine, please pass that on to her if you see Colleen from me.
I sure will.
Yeah,
I
thank
sure
you.
will.
And thank you for your report. I appreciate you coming on every time. Stephanie, take care of that wrist. And Louisa will stay tuned and keep up the good work. Catherine, thank you very much. Appreciate it. Okay, moving on. You're welcome to stay on. We will hopefully get into a few things here now regarding possibly action or consideration, I called it, of action that could be taken by the CR&T committee. Under 7A, I have Dunn County Tourism website photo solicitation, and I specifically asked if Tammy Simon from the Menominee Chamber would be online here too, because remember, we're working with them, and there's been a lot of good things. So I know Jim Zons has got a lot to talk about, and I think maybe at this point, maybe even some action. Jim Zons, will you update us, please?
Sure thing. We talked about this at the last meeting, but we really didn't have an action item on the agenda. So I wanted to make sure that this time around we got an action item to put out a solicitation for photo contributions for the new website. Last month you saw the mock-up that Dave at Your Web Choice had put together for the committee. And he's really in need of additional photos. I've actually sent him some of the ones that I've taken, but I think that if we have a solicitation for photos, it's going to go a long way toward helping that site move along. So I just wanted to make that an item on the agenda, and I can come up with the wording that we would send out. My goal, I'm looking at my notes here. I would like for us to solicit photos for the new Dunn County Tourism website and have that done through the official Dunn County Facebook page, through the current Dunn County government website, and through employee communications. And I can kind of come up with the wording for what that photo solicitation would be. There wouldn't be any monetary compensation for the photos, but people's photos would get a credit, or if it's either for an individual, or if it's a business or a professional photographer that submits the photo, they would get a credit to their business. So wanted to make sure that got on as an action item this month, so that we can start to ask for those photos for the site, for the website.
So Supervisor Zons, are you ready at this point to make a motion that would support what you're asking for?
Yes, I'm ready to make a motion that we solicit photos for the new Dunn County Tourism and Economic Development website through the official Dunn County Facebook page, website, and through Dunn County official communications.
Thank you, Jim. Michelle, have you got that down? Okay, have we got a second do I hear a second to this motion? Supervisor Bjork, thank you. Okay, now we've got a motion on the floor, and again, if there's any questions or clarifications for what the great work Jim has done. Let's hear it now. Supervisor Bjork. Larry, you're muted.
Okay, now I think I'm
Yep,
okay.
you're on.
Say, as long as our connection with Extension here, the photography project has always been a big one for 4-H. And if we could get some information into the 4-H newsletter as far as requesting photographs.
Well, that's a great.
Everybody loves to see kids working with their projects, and that'd be a really good place to solicit for photos.
That's a great idea.
Thank you, Supervisor.
That's an awesome idea.
Yep, thank you. Anybody else? Raise your hand. Chairman Bartlett.
I don't have a problem with this. I think it's a great idea. But I have a question on how this is going at the meeting. Under 6, items placed at the request of the chairman, rural tourism website update. It isn't under actions unless there's been an amended agenda that not looking at. There isn't, it isn't on the agenda for an action item as what Supervisor Zons has made.
There wasn't a amended agenda sent out that I think Michelle added that to.
Right.
Okay, good. Then I didn't get it.
Sorry for that day. It is on the amended one. So,
All right.
so it is now under action 7A, bold Dunn County Tourism website photo solicitation. So you are correct. It wasn't originally, but then I missed it, and Michelle and Jim Zons got it together. It's in there now. Okay.
Sounds good. Thank you.
Yep. Good. Thank you. Maybe if anybody else looked at the earlier agenda, you were wondering too, but now we can take action. I invited Tammy Simon to be on here too, if she had any questions. If not, fine. But I know we will be soliciting and you working together with this. Do you have any? Do you see this working okay, Tammy?
I guess I'm not sure what the plan was for the website in the beginning, and I'm going to claim new. I haven't really had any time to do any research on it. I do feel like it might be kind of a duplication of effort since we do cover the Dunn County area, but I'm honestly, I don't know what your plan was and what your goal is. So I'd obviously like to work together if we can, but it seems like this is something that is going to be completely separate from what we've done. And if that's fine with us, but I guess it just seems like a duplication of effort to me, and maybe I just haven't been involved in the previous meetings enough to understand what the goal is.
Supervisor Zons, you want to respond to that question?
No, all I'll just say is, yeah, Tammy, it's kind of unfair that you kind of got tossed into this you're new, and we've already had this back and forth going on for almost a year as far as talking about why the county wants to do its own thing as far as kind of promoting tourism and economic development within its own site, kind of approaching it its own way. And it's too complicated to kind of get into it now, but maybe you and I can have lunch and I'll kind of get you caught up to speed.
Yeah. Thank you, Jim. I agree. And Tammy, I will too. We can have more discussion on this. I think this goes way back, like Supervisor Zahn said, and we didn't seem to be getting anywhere. A lot of talk, but then before your time, Tammy, it was a little different. But now with you, I'm sure it'll work great. Yeah, good question. Thank you. We want to cooperate. Supervisor Vogel, yes.
I was just curious, is there in the solicitation, will there be like categories that we're looking for? Kind of what is the identity we're trying to portray on this website? Like, how are we portraying Dunn County? Is it nature? Is it people? Is it events, or is it all?
Kind of all of the above. And I
Okay.
think that, you know, if you have some suggestions as far as categories that I mean, you think about the categories that we're trying to kind of focus in on the website. Those are some of the categories that we would want photos to kind of represent some of those different categories. I mean, first of all, you know, what we want are some of those bright, eye-catching photos that tell Dunn County's story, that can be front and center on the website, and then just, you know, basic photos that can tell just some of the basic information that can be within the site for different parts of the information that's on the site itself. So there are different ones that will have like different levels of importance, and some of it will just be based on what some of those solicitations are. But I think that we'll probably in that solicit to come up with, here's what we're looking for. You know, nature, Dunn County activities, the fair, things to do, Dunn County industry. Because again, we want to make it open to not just individuals, but also, you know, some businesses, and maybe someone like Anderson Windows wants to submit something that has a real good capture of their business or how they have built that in Dunn County. Maybe that would be a good solicitation. It's like the more the better. And so it'd be nice to have a variety of different things to choose from, and then they can be represented in different way on the site.
Thank you, Supervisor Zons. I'm very excited about this, and I want all of you to, other committee members, to know that as long as I'm chairman of this, I would have it on each agenda for a little update. And then you people, we can stay informed as to if you want to see something changed, you can pass that information on to Supervisor Zons and from the Chamber of Commerce, how that's working, so that, you know, yeah, we're starting out, and but I think it's a great plan. And so unless we've got a motion and it's approved, more questions as we move along, I think we're going to grow with this, but we certainly got a good start. Any other supervisors or anybody else wants to have a question? Or if not, we're ready to vote on the motion.
I have a question.
Yes.
Based on Supervisor Bjork's suggestion that we solicit photos through 4-H, do we need to amend the motion to include communicating through or asking for photos through the local 4-H as well?
Yep. Supervisor Bjork, is that okay? You're muted, Larry. I don't hear you, Larry.
Makes no difference to me. However you want to do it is fine. I think just making a request through the extension office might be adequate, I would think.
I
If I may,
agree.
Mr. Chair? If I may, Mr. Chair?
Yes, County Manager Miller.
Yeah, the motion that's on the table should be adequate to cover outreach to UW, Madison Extension, 4-H, et cetera, because it's generic enough to just say we're going to solicit those inputs. I don't think we need to amend the motion to specify to whom.
Sounds
Thank
good.
you. I appreciate that. I appreciate that, Paul. The motion, I think maybe it is well worth that we reread it. Michelle, can you read the motion as seconded?
I may have to get Jim to continue the second part for me, because I was going to watch the video to get it again. But I have solicit photos for the new Dunn County Tourism and Economic Development website through Dunn County Facebook page and website. Was that the end of it?
And I think was in addition to communication with Dunn County employees where possible.
Yeah. I want to make sure we're all very clear on the motion. And again, I'm going to say that anytime I have questions of what we talked about, I read what Leanne Ralph wrote in the paper. She always gets it right. So let's make sure we all understand totally this motion. And as Paul said, how really we don't need to amend it. It should be inclusive, rather, I should say. Thank you, Michelle. I think we're clear, aren't we? Are you ready to vote on this motion that we have? Seeing no objection, I'm going to call for a vote. And will you raise your hand, please? All in favor of the motion, raise your hand. 1, 2, 3, 4. It was unanimous. Thank you. Nobody opposed. The motion's carried. Jim, thank you. I'm very excited about this, and we can move ahead now with our tourism website. And I will be calling on you for an update then at our December meeting to see how this is going. And Paul Miller, I will ask you if you're still on. Is there any way that Jim or I need to work with you to make sure this gets, so we get it on our county? Dumb question, maybe. I'm not sure.
No, it's a good question. And in fact, I'll encourage Supervisor Zons to reach out to me tomorrow or whenever convenient, and we'll do what's necessary to implement this.
Yeah, because I'll help with like the language and
Sure.
the solicitation, and then we can work back and forth and make sure that gets out.
Oh, thank you. Thank you. Can't tell you how happy I am about this. It's taken a long time, Jim, but you're good work. So thank you very much. Well, moving on, we have one more item that I did put on there because Supervisor Quinn has been working with the regional planning. As you know, he's on their board. And we do have a broadband planning meeting that Extension is setting up too. I will be attending that. I don't remember if you know or remember or not, Tom. That meeting is the same meeting as your next PRD meeting. It's a broadband meeting, which is, I wrote down November 16th, 9 to noon broadband. So I will need to be on that meeting. But I want to call on you at this point, Tom Quinn. And if you can sort of update on from the last meeting that we had on West Central Wisconsin Regional Planning Commission regarding broadband. What say you, Tom?
Thanks, Jim. And by the way, I think my understanding is that workshop will be recorded and be available if people can't watch it on next Tuesday. But anyway, that's an important workshop for as many people as possible to see. So we talked about this at the last meeting. It's listed as a item for possible action. So just bringing it back this week as a action item. And it's basically just a request that West Central Regional Planning provide assistance to Dunn County in organizing and facilitating a county broadband planning workshop. The exact parameters of that would need to be developed as we work with them. But the idea is to pull together key stakeholders in the county, including the ISP providers, if possible, and county governments and others, and town government, and see and sort of get a local perspective on where we're at with broadband planning and what kind of coordinated response might be the most productive for us to have. So regional planning has done this kind of workshop in other counties. I think they're willing to work with us to do it here. They will provide some of the funding, and they will solicit grant funds from Economic Development Administration for the rest of the funding. So really, it's just a matter of us saying, yes, we're interested in proceeding with this kind of project, and we request their assistance. And I might say that I think that pulling people together like this could provide a way to begin coordinating some of the questions that Jim posed earlier. And I think it might be a sort of healthy dialogue to have as we think about how to allocate county funds towards this. So I'm certain we want to and we're going to, but we need to have a plan as to how we do it.
Yes, thank you, Supervisor Quinn. I totally agree. And this is why I thought you needed to kind of refer. I think from my perspective, I got a little, when I brought this up kind of at our executive meeting that Tom Quinn was at, and of course, our county board chair Bartlett. And this is a direction it sounded to me like that I was hearing. And so Supervisor,
I'd make a motion.
That's what I'm saying. Would you state your motion?
Yeah,
please?
Jim, I'll make a motion, and if we get a second, then we can have some discussion. And my motion will be very simple. That Dunn County, via the CRT committee, request assistance from West Central Wisconsin Regional Planning in organizing and facilitating a county broadband planning workshop. I can get you the exact language, Michelle.
Do I hear a second?
I will second that. Jim Zons.
Zahn seconded. Thank you. Thank you, Quinn. And now we can open up for discussion. I was premature. We have a motion on the floor, seconded. Any discussion to the motion?
Mr. Chairman?
Supervisor Bjork.
I guess tonight was a perfect example as far as internet access in the rural areas. It took me quite a while to make it to the meeting, and I had to even change buildings to do it. And then, read in the paper where there's been dollars that have been allocated or awarded, and my township, Springbrook, was one of them. Are we going to have more information on what work will be done with those dollars throughout the county? I think there was a half a dozen different townships that were listed. How does that fall in? The money that's awarded for those areas, how does that fall into what Quinn's motion is? I mean, are we going to hear more about the money that's already coming our way?
Yeah, I expect that sort of a review of where we're at and how we got there, and Jim Kuslik's view of the grants that 24/7 applied for. There were also grants that were awarded to ISPs for Downing and Boyceville, some from Chabarden. So there's several ISPs that are working on it. And that'd be one of the topics, Larry, is to sort of get everybody on the same page about where we're at and what the opportunities are going forward. And I think in our executive committee meeting, Mr. Miller, and he may want to speak to this, noted that we really, and before we actually start allocating dollars, we need to have a process in place for how we make that decision. And right now we don't have it. But that's going to need to be in place. And I know Jim was asking us to consider allocating a certain amount of money, which would be fine. But I think I'd suggest that maybe having a little more information before we make that decision might be a good strategy also.
Thank you, Supervisor Quinn. I'll open this up too, even to our county manager, Paul Miller, if you care to respond to this.
Sure. I'm in favor of a workshop. I think West Regional Wisconsin Planning Commission can help us frame what we're after. For me, the issue with respect to utilization of any funds, whether it be ARPA or any other funds, is dependent on information. It's one thing to say we're going to set money aside. It's another to make a decision about how much money is going to be used on individual projects. What we've received to date are requests either for generic set aside this money kinds of things like Mr. Kusilik said, or requests from townships saying, can the county contribute X amount of dollars to a project? What we have not received are details. And that's what we really need to make an informed decision on any of these requests. My sense is that the county is open to the consideration of a financial consideration, whether it be ARPA funds or others, for these internet broadband, rural broadband projects. What we don't know in any case that I have encountered so far is the specifics of the project. What is the geographic area? What are the number of houses or businesses that are proposed to be served? What is the total cost of the project? What are the timelines during which the project must be constructed? What are the deadlines for the grant application? What is the agency to whom the grant application is being made? What is the formula that determines the amount of local contribution that is minimally required? What happens if the local contributions are not made? How much of the cost is being borne by the ISP? Are the requests simply to make it less expensive for the ISP, or are they minimum amounts that are necessary in order for the grant to qualify for whatever agency is going to issue them? These are all questions that are just off the top of my head that we haven't seen. A relatively simple application process could be put together that iterates, those questions. It says if an ISP or a township or a combination thereof is going to apply to the county for the dedication of matching funds, these things minimally shall be provided. And then I would anticipate that the process would be fairly straightforward too. Upon complete receipt of an application that has that information enough to make an informed decision, it would come in front of this committee, CR&T, to be vetted and for a recommendation. This committee, upon vetting that, would make a recommendation to the county board. The executive committee would have eyes on, and the county board ultimately by resolution would have to agree or not to contribute the requested amount. Now, West Wisconsin Regional probably can give us more depth than that. Tell us what some of the other jurisdictions have done. Another thing that I think is very important is to talk about the sources of income. A lot of people have focused on ARPA, and it's completely understandable since one of the overt things that ARPA money is available for is rural broadband expansion. But the federal government just passed an infrastructure bill that includes some $65 billion for broadband expansion. The governor just issued a press statement saying that Wisconsin expects to receive $100 million in broadband money. So the local question, among the questions that we need to be asking here in Dunn County, I think, is with these other pots of money, is that the best use of our ARPA money? Especially when you consider that refined direction on ARPA has verified that we may dedicate up to $10 million or 30% of our total, and our total allocation of ARPA is $8.8 million. To road projects, we all know about the financing problem we've had for roads. And if we can't find the levy to pay for these road projects that we need to do, we would have to potentially borrow. Would the ARPA money be better spent avoiding borrowing money for roads with the realization that there's all these other pots of money being dedicated for rural broadband? So this is among the scope of things that perhaps West Regional can help us articulate and come to a clearer understanding on in terms of how we process these requests. Sorry if I rattled on longer than you were expecting, Mr. Chair.
Thank you. Thank you. Appreciate those comments. I think what we're all kind of agreeing on is what Supervisor Quinn said. We need to come up with a plan. It sounds to me like the organization of West Central Wisconsin Regional Planning is able to and can do that for us. Tom, are you under this motion that we have right now? Do I understand it then that means you would take it back to the Planning Commission and make a request that they would do this for Dunn County? And with a time frame?
Right. I guess what makes the most sense for me is, for now anyway, and this could change at any point in time in the future, but for now, I would handle this somewhat in the same way that Jim handled the tourism thing. And I just be willing to act sort of as a contact person between regional planning and our committee. And at some point in time, it makes sense to have that handed off to a staff person. That's fine with me. But for now, that's how I do it.
Sure. Well, good discussion. County Board Chair, do you have any comments you'd care to make?
No, I think it's a great idea to get everybody together and talking, and hopefully we would understand the whole scope of what we need in the county better.
Well, thank you. I think maybe if we follow this plan, we are now having a motion in front of us. That would probably then the ARPA funds, as I understand it, any ISP would apply under this proposal, Tom, and a form, an application. Is that what we're talking about? And then that would come to this committee?
Well, I think that Mr. Miller laid that out really well. I don't know that we would get into the details of an actual application in the workshop, but that's what will have to come out of it, as Mr. Miller said, eventually. But that application would be best if it was informed by a good understanding of where we're at and where we want to go.
Well, thank you, because I did mention to the executive board that each county seems to have a different broadband committee.
Yeah.
Eau Claire County has assigned a specific broadband committee in Eau Claire County. Chippewa County, as I understand it, is the full county board. Here in Dunn County, I think maybe this committee is still the broadband committee. And so we would play the role in getting it moving and into the role that this motion would do. Do you think that would do it for us, Tom?
Yes.
Yeah, good discussion. And if Jim Kusich is still on, and I know he's heard this discussion, he can get back to us on this later. And then of course I've been in touch with Josh Lean, who's a Bloomer Telephone Company. They have a lot of lines, as you know, in the town of Grant, Colfax, and down to Elk Mound Townships. And then up in Dave Bartlett's area, I call it Mosaic. It's the old Chippewa, Barron, Carbindon, or whatever. But now I think we call it Mosaic, right, Tom? And there are others,
right.
Other
Right.
providers. I think I counted up to maybe as many as 7 or 8 or 9 that might reach into parts of Dunn County. So every one of them would have to go through this same application for ARPA funds. Is that right, Tom, your understanding?
Well, I think that's probably the process, something like that. I'd also note that Paul mentioned the infrastructure bill that just passed on broadband, and it's a lot of money, and it includes language that clearly gives a strong priority to rural areas and underserved rural areas in particular. So the governor's announcement is right on track.
Yes. Well, are we ready to vote on the motion? I will ask Michelle to read it again, please, so we all understand the motion.
Yes, I switched to typing, so I have this down now. So the motion that Dunn County Community Resource and Tourism Committee request assistance from West Central Regional Planning Commission in organizing and facilitating a county broadband planning workshop.
Tom, does that sound okay?
Yeah.
Who seconded this motion again? Larry Bjork, thank you. All right, you've heard the motion. Ready to vote. All in favor of the motion, raise your hand.
I'm raising my hand. Yes.
Jim, you're raising your hand. Okay. Unanimous. Thank you, everybody. Motion's carried. Thank you very much, Tom Quinn, for that work and agreeing to take this back to your committee. And I will be asking you for an update then, as well as for Jim Zons at our December meeting. Good meeting. At this point, there's always kind of under use of ARPA funds for rural broadband project. That's moot right now because we've somewhat agreed that we're gonna have to have a plan. So there will not be any action taken on that at this time. We're getting to the end. Announcements. I'm opening up, and I want to make another announcement. How important the press is. And I think we need to make sure that we always recognize, because when we get a press that accurately reports our meetings, and again, to Leanne Ralph, I'm sure she's reporting this meeting again. So we'll be able to read about it in the paper, but not us, we know, but the county, other readers in the county can read about what we're doing in the CR&T committee. And so I reach out again, and I for accurate reporting, and I want to say thank you, Leanne. You're really covering the CR&T meeting, broadband, as well as tourism and everything, and extension meetings and all we have. Thank you. Announcements. I did announce the November 16th broadband planning meeting at 9 to noon. As Tom Quinn says, it will be broadcast so we can look at it later. Committee members or even anybody online, Tammy or anybody on any announcements you care to make? I see no hands going up. I want to thank all of our extension educators for participating, you, Tammy, for being on. We look forward to working with you on this. And Jim Kuslich for his presentation, for public comments. Any other announcements? Supervisor Bjork, yes.
Jim, I would just like the committee to know that at the next meeting, it won't be the day as nice and warm as today.
and I agree with that, Larry. Today was beautiful. Before the meeting started, I did ask Louisa. I was getting an update on the Dunn County 4-H judging team, and I won't go over that right now, but it's good news. The Dunn County 4-H judging team, as you know, won 2 years ago, and they're still going to be able to go to Scotland it looks like next June. So Dunn County will be champions for Dunn County 4-H dairy cattle judging team will be champions for 3 international champions, I should say, for 3 years. We're so proud of them. Any final announcements right now? We're doing pretty good. I have 5:50. Any final comments? Again, I reach out to all of you. Thank you, everybody. Stay healthy. And our next meeting is on December 13th at 4:45. Michelle, thank you again for all your help in setting these meetings up. Greatly appreciated. No further comments? Thank you, everybody. Stay healthy. Meeting's adjourned.